This is Meteo Mundo.
Hi friends, Rusty back here with your latest Meteo Mundo forecast on this early Friday afternoon, November the 17th. Obviously, the big story continues to be potential tropical cyclone 22, what it's going to be doing for the rest of this Friday and over the weekend, and some of the potential flooding rains it could bring to portions of the Caribbean and the Turks and Caicos in the southeast Bahamas. So as we get into this, the first thing I want to ask the Meteo Mundo community to do is let me know how you guys are doing. Drop it in the comments section below. I would love to hear, especially if you live in some of the areas that have been already impacted by this potential tropical cyclone, like Jamaica and Panama and maybe portions of Haiti. Let me know what the weather has been like. And as you're doing that, hit that like button for me as well. So the first thing we're going to do in this forecast is look at the here and now. Potential tropical cyclone 22 continues to track off towards the north and to the east, moving northeast at around 11 miles an hour. Now, it is not a tropical depression as of yet, and it is very ill-defined still. Notice that all of the blowup of showers and storms are well east of that center of circulation. There's a ton of dry air to the west. So the Hurricane Center is saying that there's less and less likelihood that this becomes a tropical depression or even a tropical storm. And I mentioned this in the live streams I did yesterday. It didn't matter to me whether this stayed a depression or a storm or just a disturbance. The impacts were going to be about the same. It was always about the amount of rain this was going to bring. Now, still officially from the Hurricane Center, this does become a depression later on this Friday, and then moving across Jamaica and eastern Cuba as a depression, and then actually attaining tropical storm strength over the Turks and Caicos tomorrow with winds of 40 miles an hour. So although the official track from the Hurricane Center still has this becoming tropical storm Vince, the wording on their discussions is, yeah, but that's a lot lower chance than what we expected from yesterday. And you can just clearly see, does this look like a system that is going to be wrapping up into anything, especially even a tropical storm? To me, no. I mean, if you look at the water vapor imagery here, and I mentioned it yesterday, look how much dry air is over the Northwest Caribbean and over the Cayman Islands. Now, we're going to still pull the broad center just to the west of Jamaica, so unfortunately that does keep islands like Jamaica and eastern Cuba and especially Haiti and the southern coastline, the Dominican Republic, and then the Turks and Caicos and the southeast Bahamas all within this rich moisture stream. So again, the rainfall and the flood threat will continue regardless of whether this becomes a depression or a storm or just stays a disturbance. But again, we still have tropical storm watches that are in effect. So these are the areas that as of Friday early afternoon are still under tropical storm watches: Jamaica, Haiti, eastern Cuba, Turks and Caicos, and the southeast Bahamas. And that has not changed since the first advisory from potential tropical cyclone 22 yesterday afternoon. So again, that's kind of what's happening here and now with this system. The other big story, of course, is just the rain. We continue to see tropical downpours move across Jamaica. It is going to be area dependent, but storm totals are going to be significant enough to cause the possibility of flash flooding. As a matter of fact, for Jamaica, we have a flash flood warning that continues for the southern and eastern parishes, low-lying and flood-prone areas, including Westmoreland, St. Elizabeth, Manchester, Clarenton, St. Catherine, Kingston, St. Andrew, St. Thomas, Portland, and St. Mary parishes on the island of Jamaica. And then there's a flash flood watch for everyone else. Storm totals are more than likely going to be 200 to 300 millimeters, maybe locally higher. I'm going to show you a lot of different models with the rainfall totals because there's still a very wide spread. Some of them are in the 4 to 8 inch range, which is that 200, well, more than 7 to 12 is 200 to 300 millimeters. Okay, but there are even some that try and pump it up higher than that. So it's going to be very area dependent, which is why I want to know what's happening in your area. Drop it in the comments below. And even yesterday, when we had just a couple of inches of rain, we had reports of some flooded out roadways. Again, higher terrain areas, mudslides could be an issue. So this is going to be happening through the day here in Jamaica. We notice a blow up of moisture over the western sides of Hispaniola Hispaniola. Now, especially for the southern coastline, Lacaille there in Haiti, where tropical storm watch continues, and then on over towards, let me slide over here, get back over towards the Dominican Republic, even towards the southern coastline of the Dominican Republic. We're going to see a lot of moisture coming in with that strong southeast wind. Maybe not as much rain for the higher terrain areas in the northern side of the island, but for the southern coastline of both Haiti and the Dominican Republic, concerned about some excessive rain there. I think we're going to get a lot of rain in eastern Cuba. That just seems to be right on the path of that significant moisture developing and moving north and east. And then we're going to see an acceleration and some forward speed here in the Turks and Caicos and the southeast Bahamas. So again, not as concerned with the flooding rain there, but we could get some gale force winds over the weekend, really cranking up the wind threat as this thing accelerates to the north and to the east. So that's kind of a look at what's happening right now. We can take a look at the visible satellite imagery here as well. And again, it's a beautiful product. Love to show you this. And again, you can just clearly see here on the visible satellite image that all of the highest cloud tops and the moisture is displaced well to the east of the center of circulation. I don't see a blow up anymore near the center like we had yesterday. So again, a lower chance of this becoming a depression or even a tropical storm, even though that's still the official forecast from the Hurricane Center. But regardless, again, it's a big rainmaker for the areas that I just mentioned, and even down towards the Pacific coastline of Costa Rica and Panama, they are going to see significant rain as moisture streams over their area and back into the Southwest Caribbean. All right, let's get into the models. What's going to be happening? Again, for my friends in Jamaica and portions of Hispaniola and eastern Cuba and the Turks and Caicos and the southeast Bahamas, it's rain. That's the big story. There'll be more wind in the Turks and Caicos, but it's still about how much rain that we're going to end up seeing. So, going to look at a lot of different models here and a lot of different possibilities. I will say one thing that is still up in the air, and it always happens with broad disturbances like this, is just trying to pinpoint the amount of rain that we're going to see at any one location. It's always the toughest part of this forecast, but the amounts look significant enough almost everywhere to talk about the potential, at least, for flash flooding, for mudslides, for localized flooding and urban flooding as well throughout all the areas that I just mentioned. I mean, let's hope we don't get a lot of that to happen, but that development is possible. Now, on the GFS model, as we go through this Friday, you're going to notice that the GFS model does try and sneak in some drier air a little bit quicker. I think that on the GFS, the rain would try and wrap up a little bit later today with just some scattered showers redeveloping on Saturday, but we're going to try and end the rain fairly quickly. Now, most of the models do not buy that. The GFS, again, looks to be displaced a little bit too far towards the east. But you can see what the GFS model does do with the rain through eastern Cuba, and then especially towards western Hispaniola and the southern coastline of both Haiti and the Dominican Republic, where we would get a lot of rain moving in later tonight, and then throughout Saturday, and then portions of Sunday, but the rain beginning to end on Sunday morning. So for Hispaniola, the weather really goes downhill later tonight, all day Saturday through portions of Sunday. Then for the Turks and the Caicos and the southeast Bahamas, we start to see that rain enter the picture later today. Scattered downpours, we'll pick that up over the weekend, and then your wind threat picks up Saturday morning through at least all day Saturday, and then accelerating and getting out of here as we get into Sunday. Puerto Rico, again, I expect some downpours moving in with this, but at this point in time, I'm not concerned about the potential flooding threat in your area. But again, it's going to be a little bit more of a wet weekend for portions of Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands. Now, when we look at the total precipitation here from the GFS model, and I'll go ahead and extend this out into early on Monday morning, so we just kind of get the full brunt of it. Again, the GFS model still continues to paint on a fair amount of rain for the island. Again, this is between now and future rain. So what already has fallen doesn't come into account, but additional rainfall total of a couple of inches across the island, not much on the western side of the island. But again, it's very interesting that you get just offshore north and east, And here are all these huge maximums that we're seeing right now on the southeast coastline of Cuba. Again, 7-8 inches of rain. I hope all of that falls in the open waters. Then down towards Lacay, again, a few inches of rain, 3-4. Back over towards Santo Domingo, where again, just that rich south flow could actually bring a lot of rain, even to the coastline of the Dominican Republic, which is not under a tropical storm watch. But again, rainfall totals don't equate into tropical storm watches and warnings. It's all about the wind. We certainly aren't going to see that there in Santo Domingo, but the rainfall could be significant, a few inches of rain, and not as much over the higher terrain. That would be great news. Again, such a mountainous island, Hispaniola, is not a lot of rain can cause mudslide issues there. But you notice as we get into the southwest Turks and Caicos there, we start to see the rainfall totals diminish because this picks up forward speed and not sitting over one area for very long. Now, that's kind of what's happening on the GFS. If I show you the NAM model, and we take a look at, first of all, the precipitation out of that, and I go to reflectivity here, and then just got to reset the time frame real quickly. So I'll do that. By the way, while I'm doing that, if you want to do me a favor and hit the like button or subscribe to the channel, if you're not a subscriber, you want the latest updates from Meteo Mundo, I appreciate you doing that. And of course, you got a specific question about the forecast, drop that in the comments section below, and I would be happy to oblige. Now, on the NAM model, it's clear to see that it's going to stay wetter longer. So if I back this up to early afternoon, the NAM model continues to paint on more rain for Jamaica deeper into today and then overnight through Saturday. This is more in line with what most of the models are painting on as far as rainfall total. So now it's the GFS, which is under everything else, and the NAM and the European models are much higher with the rain because it keeps it over the island simply longer, deep into tomorrow. You can see this is 1 p.m. tomorrow, so 24 hours from now, we still have some rain, not really clearing out until late afternoon, early evening on our Saturday, and still pockets of very heavy rain there. I mean, again, this would be tomorrow morning at 10 a.m., and a lot of the island would be getting some heavy rain there on the NAM model. So it's all about where the heaviest rain sets up and how long it's going to be sticking around. Now, because all of the heaviest moisture is displaced east of the center of circulation, the NAM model really does bring more heavy rain to Haiti and portions of the Dominican Republic, especially eastern Cuba and the Turks and Caicos. It's just a wetter model overall, and the European model is a wetter model overall compared to the GFS. But again, it's all about the rain setting up. We're going to get some breezes. We're going to get some winds of 30 and 35 regardless of development, but it's not going to be sustained. And that'll continue to move across the Turks and Caicos into Sunday morning, and then quickly clearing out after that as we do pick up the forward speed. So winds on the NAM model. Again, it's going to be a little bit more significant. The NAM is going to try and keep that core going exactly on the path that the Hurricane Center has, basically going over Jamaica later today, eastern Cuba overnight into early Saturday morning, and then across the Turks and Caicos and the southeast Bahamas throughout the day on Saturday. But again, really picking up some forward speed and accelerating quickly north and east as it merges with a frontal boundary there in the western Atlantic. It's that same frontal boundary that brought the spin up over the northwest Bahamas over the last couple of days. So if we look at the NAM model here, its most significant wind is actually right now, it's a little bit too fast in forward speed. I have not seen these kinds of winds on the north side of Jamaica as of yet, but just to show you again that the core is stronger with the NAM, with the winds. Again, these would not be sustained winds, but there would be some higher gusts. And obviously, if you equate stronger winds with this heavy rain and saturated ground, that could lead to some additional issues if that comes through. Now, notice as we get into even on Sunday, some stronger winds on the south side of Haiti and the Dominican Republic. That's that rich moisture coming in. That's why I think it's the southern coastline, even on the Dominican Republic side, that could see some significant rain because of a brisk south wind and very moisture-laden air. But certainly on the NAM model, it's more significant as far as the wind goes there. Couple of other models to show you. First of all, the GFS here, again, kind of brings this system north and east, but begins to fizzle it relatively quickly. Some of the ensemble members do pull it through the Turks and Caicos as a depression. But again, that chance is getting lower and lower, and I would assume in later updates from the National Hurricane Center, they may continue to back off of the possibility of this becoming a depression or a tropical storm. But again, it's never been about the wind. I've mentioned that so many times. It's about the rain. This is the European rainfall for the Greater Antilles. in millimeters. This is additional rain from what we've already seen. And you notice in Kingston, about 120 additional millimeters of rain. Several inches of rain, not as much on the western side. So we could be, again, focusing a little bit more in the central and the eastern sides. But again, our hillier terrain on the western sides there, some of the western parishes, it doesn't take as much rain to flood. So it is still going to be very area dependent, but it looks like a maximum of rain right now, central and the eastern sides of the island. Then you get up to maybe a maximum of over 400 millimeters of rain on the southern and southeastern coastline of Cuba. Notice that those rainfall totals do diminish fairly quickly as we get into the Turks and Caicos. And again, on the southern side of the Dominican Republic from the European model, this is additional rain from what's already fallen. 135 millimeters for Lucay, and then about 100 millimeters for places near Santo Domingo. Again, not as much in interior locations. That would be good news. Now, the Hurricane Center continues to put out their own rainfall potentials. They backed down from yesterday, but they still are highlighting locally up to 8+ inches of rain for the southeast side of the island. So again, that could still lead to significant flash flooding in some areas. Over 12 inches of rain for the southeast coastline of Cuba. There's your locally 8+ inches of rain along the southern coast of Haiti. Fairly high still, maybe 4 to 6, as we mentioned, over portions of the southern Dominican Republic. And again, I do not want to leave out what's happening along the Pacific coast of Costa Rica and Panama, where storm total wise, they could go over 12 inches of rain locally. All right, so let's go back to the weather computer here. And again, want to wrap up what's happening with this system, and then we'll get towards the rest of the forecast. This is something that will continue to evolve as we go hour by hour. So for this Friday, I'll certainly keep you updated on this. And again, the tropical storm watches continue. The flooding rain threat continues as well. Let's take a look at the forecast for the rest of the Caribbean basin and for the Bahamas. So we'll switch back over here and take a look at where I expect some other areas of potentially decent rainfall totals, and then we'll look at some of the winds as well. So let me get back over to the reflectivity product here, and then I'm going to reset our time frame. This is always fun to do, but all good indeed. All right. Yep. That looks good. All right, so let's loop this into motion here. I'm just going to look at the broad perspective, then we'll zoom in a couple of spots. I mean, obviously, the most significant rain is going to be coming in with PTC 22. We're going to see the rain come to an end over the Bahamas, although it'll still be a very breezy weekend as well. There's all the rain down in Panama and Costa Rica. We'll zoom in on that. And again, through the weekend, the south winds, even though this disturbance is pulling away from you, look at all of that heavier rain somewhere, in and around Panama City and San Jose, but even closer to portions of the Pacific coastline, a little bit south and west of Panama City. But again, storm total wise, up to a foot of rain is possible. Some of this rain will drift over the ABC Islands. I don't expect a lot of rain for Aruba, Bonaire, and Curacao for the weekend, but a spotty shower or two is possible, especially on Sunday. But many dry hours and locations, and that's true for my friends in the Lesser Antilles as well. Many dry hours and locations over the weekend, a couple of spotty showers with the heat of the day, but overall we're looking pretty good. As I already mentioned, for Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands, especially for Puerto Rico, we're going to pick up some rain late tomorrow and into Sunday. Could be some good tropical downpours out of that. Probably not enough to cause any concerns. We're going to kick up the sea conditions, though, on the western and the southern side of the islands. No doubt about that. Obviously, some big swells for the southeast Bahamas and the Turks and Caicos as our disturbance moves through. And you can see that rain quickly moving away. So for the Bahamas, again, it's really about the wind. The rain is getting out of the way for places like Nassau and Freeport and Lucaya. Looking at the wind profile out of this, we'll throw on the wind gusts. And again, it's been extremely windy in the Bahamas, but those winds will finally begin to relax. Still going to be pretty breezy, especially for tomorrow, but then those winds will diminish on Sunday, and we'll start to be able to open up the boating again for the northwest Bahamas. Not going to be the case for the southeast Bahamas and the Turks and Caicos. Again, very rough surf and sea conditions with that wind pulling through. And you can see, look how quickly these winds move up. Now, for our friends in Bermuda, really rough conditions in Bermuda with the wind today and tomorrow. We could have some wind gusts there over 50 miles an hour with this kind of hybrid non-tropical low, but it's also merging with this front. Again, this is the third week of November, so we kind of get these hybrid systems moving off the east coast of the United States. And otherwise, again, the winds don't look to be very significant outside of where we have our potential tropical cyclones. So that's kind of the update across the Caribbean and the Bahamas for your weekend ahead. But outside of these areas I just mentioned, the weather does look pretty good for many areas. Okay, friends, you know I'm going to keep you up to date here at Meteo Mundo. You can follow us across the social media platforms. Instagram, My Meteo Mundo. You want to send us a video of what's happening in your area, you can do it there. TikTok and our Facebook page. And you can always email us those pictures and videos. I'd love to show you here on YouTube on our forecast updates. It's mymeteamundo@gmail.com. So in between all of these as well, we are also live streaming our computer system. You can find that on the live tab. Check in from time to time. And of course, with this still developing system throughout Jamaica and portions of Haiti and Cuba and the Turks and Caicos and the Bahamas, I'll have continuous updates and numerous updates as we go through this Friday and into the weekend. So keep update here by liking and subscribing. Thank you so much, friends. And I'll see you shortly right here at Meteo Mundo.